from the College by the Lake, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Local, regional, national, and international guests discussing the issues and topics affecting the way you live are on Forum, the North Idaho College Public Forum, with your host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart.
We're most pleased to welcome you to today's program. This is a very, very special day for the North Idaho College Public Forum. With today's program, we end 25 years of the broadcast, and when we come to you next week, we'll be in the 26th year. As we end the 25 years, or what we would call our silver anniversary, I have chosen to welcome to the program our long-standing panel that will join with me today in reviewing those 25 years. I'm equally pleased to have with us today the president of the North Idaho College. In a moment, I will introduce all three of these special people. You viewers have been watching our program, many of you, for a long, long time. We hear from you with your wonderful letters and your telephone calls, and we thought it would be fun today to pause for this benchmark in our program and to share with you some of our thoughts about the guests and subjects over that 25 years. Allow me to give you a few statistics. This program went on the air on September the 18th, 1972. We have been on the air ever since. It is a weekly program, and today is broadcast over 6 PBS stations, and we're very grateful to those stations. First of all, I'd like to thank the management and board of KSPS TV Channel 7 in Spokane, Washington. They have been our longest partner in this venture, and we just love working with them. We're also very grateful to the stations in Idaho, KUID TV in Moscow, KAID in Boise, KISU, which is in Pocatello, KIPT in Twin Falls, and KCDT in Coeur d'Alene. We thank all of you very, very much. A few more statistics about the program. As we finish today's program, it will mean that we have produced and aired 1,225 programs. We have had 1,650 guests in that 25 years, and when you count visiting panel members and our crew over the years, and we're grateful to our crew, over 2,000 people have participated in this program. I would like to take a moment to share some examples of very highly qualified and well-known people that have appeared on this program. One of them that I remember very well is Dr. Joseph Fletcher, who was a professor of social ethics in Boston, and he was the chair of the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s PhD committee. He was a remarkable guest. Ann B. Davis, who was Alice on the Brady Bunch, appeared on this program. We had Dr. Barbara Brown, a real genius and the founder of Biofeedback. We had Marvin Camel, who at the time was the World Cruiser boxing champion. Dr. Buckminster Fuller, who has always been described as the world's friendly genius. We had James Cash and Doug McEwen, who were actors in the movie on Golden Pond. Paul Conrad, who several times has won the Pulitzer Prize for his work with the LA Times as a cartoonist. Carole King, an international singer and renowned in her field. George Crowell, who was at the time a producer on 60 Minutes of CBS. Julian Bond, who was a national known civil rights leader in this country. And the list goes on and on. I am particularly also fond to remember that we had on the program the entire State Supreme Court of Idaho to help celebrate the 100 years of the court. We've had many governors and U.S. senators and U.S. representatives and other political leaders on this program over the years. And I would also mention a couple of more. We had a member of the royal family from Japan who was a great artist, and she was a great treat on this program, Miss Hoshina. We also had Mel Elfin when he was the editor of special reports for U.S. News and World Report, and Ruby Dee and Ozzie Davis, who are known as members and successful on film and the live theater and television. Also, I would like for just a moment to share some of the subject matters that we have covered over those years. We do subject just for 1 week. Other times we do subjects for 4, 6, 8, or 10 weeks. And some of those special series included future shock, DNA, genetic engineering, even before the recent breakthrough that was some years ago. We did dangers of nuclear war, South Africa and apartheid, the state of prejudice in America, the issue of censorship in America. Our subtopic was, Is the First Amendment Dead? We had a very, very powerful series entitled Empowering Women, Achieving Human Rights in the 21st Century. Again, those are only samples of what we have done on this program, trying to share with you many, many views and many subjects, a great diversity in viewpoint and ideas. With that, I'd like to turn now to our guests today and talk a little bit about those people that have made this so possible and have been so special. First of all, I want to recognize Janelle Burke, who has been a regular panelist on this program since September the 23rd, 1975. She has been on the program for 22 years. It was only 3 years old when she joined us. And Janelle, what a great pleasure we've had working with you and discussing the guests we would have and carrying that through.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's been wonderful. We've gone through lots of changes together, haven't we, Tony?
We certainly have, and we hope to continue to experience some ideas and some changes. And next to her is the other regular panelist of this program, Steve Shink. In backing up with Janelle, for you that don't know her, that you might have someone as a new viewer, she is also an attorney in Idaho. And Steve Shink is the Dean of College Relations and Development at North Idaho College, and he joined us in early spring of 1985, and he's completing 12 years with us. And Steve, just like with Janelle, it's been a pleasure to work with such a professional panel and two individuals that can discuss and ask questions on all the variety of subjects that we do, and that's what makes a strong panel member. And again, thank you.
Well, Tony, thank you. The pleasure truly has been all mine.
And we're so pleased to have with us today Dr. C. Robert Bennett. He is the president of North Idaho College, and he came to North Idaho College a little over 10 years ago. In fact, when he arrived in town, we that very week celebrated the 700th program and had a special program from Beverly's at the Coeur d'Alene Resort, and then he was here, of course, as we celebrated our 1,000th show. We had a great party and an hour special, and now we have him back to help us celebrate the 25th year, or the end of that year, on the program. Thank you, Dr. Bennett.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Now, with that, I also want to recognize some of the staff. Lindy Turner came to us in the spring of 1990, and he is head of productions from the technical aspect and director and coordinator of that, and he's been here 7 years. And the story about Lindy is that he also was here in the early 80s as a student and was on the crew here. So he's the only person that we have here that's been both in the capacity student and now professional staff. And also Gail Hughes is his assistant, and she works almost every show and is very, very dedicated to the program. We've had 5 executive producers on the program. Denise Clark is our most recent executive producer, and we also appreciate those 5 people, as well as we are the Board of Trustees and the faculty and staff and students who have been kind and supportive of the program. And of course, we want to say a special thank you to our viewers. Now, with that long, long introduction and recognition of our program, I would like to ask some questions to the panel and let us reminisce, and then Dr. Bennett's going to respond to some of your comments in a few minutes, what you're doing on the program and how you react. Janelle, I shall start with you, and since you have seniority, you know, Steve's really a kid on the program. He's only been here 12 years. And we always tease him, don't we, Janelle? Say he's not been here a long time. Janelle, you've interviewed at this point now hundreds of guests. I've been fortunate to be here from the beginning for 25 years, and I indicated we've had 1,225 programs and 1,650 guests. This is an impossible question, but would you pull out and suggest who might be one of the most fascinating guests, or 2 or 3 that has left the greatest imprint on you?
It was very difficult to do that, Tony. I'm a little uncomfortable here. I'm sitting across the table from you instead of next to you, but it's very difficult to think of what would maybe be the most exciting show that we've done. But there are lots of shows that are representative of a good number of the kinds of things that I think make up a good show. But I maybe would pick out the Carole King show. You mentioned that earlier. Carole King wrote the wonderful song Friends. She came to the show and she talked about a variety of things. And that show had all of what I think makes a good show. For one thing, she was humorous at times. She said things that were funny, that tickled us all. And then she was a bit poignant. She kind of touched our heartstrings, and she told us the right kind of story that kind of got to us. I think she also had personality. You could just see it bubbling forth. It was there. She was alive. She was also a little bit different. She was special. in the way that she presented things. And then she had, of course, a great enthusiasm for music, and it was wonderful. I'm a musician myself. For our viewers who don't know us all the time when we sit across on that side of the table, my undergraduate degree is a degree in music. I'm a pianist and organist, and so I had a great interest in music. Along the same line also, we've had, of course, people who were not necessarily nationally known, but who were locally known, local people who did well. And Carol Farley is an example of that, the opera star who is from Moscow, Idaho, and now she's internationally known. So local people who do well, and then people like Carole King who are nationally known who live in Idaho. That's just an example. I'll let Steve
Although
maybe.
you gave examples from music, another one of your strengths is that you can just interview people from many subjects that are foreign to your major, and that's very, very commendable. Steve, I'll ask you the same question.
Oh, Tony, like Janelle, I don't have one favorite. There are some names that stick out. Julian Bond, because that's a name from my childhood and from the part of the country that I'm from. One of the first people, at least on this show, that I had a chance to interview that was a nationally known figure. I probably have enjoyed some of the conversations we've had with people like Clay Jenkinson, Thomas Jefferson, for people who watched some of our recent shows about the Popcorn Forum, as much as anything, probably for his scholarship. In the same way, Gunther Schuller, I was just in awe of the breadth of his knowledge about music. Unlike Janelle, that's an area where I don't have much expertise. I'll always remember Ozzie Davis as such a fine gentleman, what a soft-spoken, gracious person he was, and he and his wife both great talents. Those are just a few of the names that stick out in my mind, and of course there are others that stick out for entirely different reasons, but maybe we'll have a chance to talk about them later.
Yes, I do want to follow up on that. Before the show commenced, I know Steve made the comment that he felt that every guest we'd had, and I said this after the 1000th TV show, that every single guest we've had, I'm glad we had them. There was something about it that was interesting and something we could learn. And I know you made that same indication, although they're not all dealing with the same subject or even approaching from the same viewpoint. My second question to both of you, and then after that I want to get Dr. Bennett involved in reacting to what you said, but I've also introduced on the program today a lot of subjects, and obviously after that many programs I've only picked out some examples. Is there any particular subject on a series and all that has impacted you the most and or challenged you to think the most and to pursue it even further? And this time, Steve, we'll start with you.
Boy, that's an interesting question, Tony. And now my memory's going to fail me, not of the subject so much, but unfortunately, we talked about this a little before the show, of the name. Janelle said I'm wrong, but I'm not sure that I am. There was a columnist from the Spokesman Review, and I think he was on the show a couple of years ago. I think his name was Gurin, Michael or David Gurin. I apologize to him profusely for forgetting the name, but I'll never forget what he talked about. And that was the process of young people, particularly young men, maturing. And how just the growth of our society, that the way families have grown apart, the demands of a fast-paced life have robbed young people today of a sort of a tribal system that is so important to their maturity, providing a structure, some source of authority outside their parents, and the lack of that other source of authority puts tremendous pressure on parents today, often single parents. And so much of what he said rang true with what I see going on around us today, that I was just fascinated by that program.
Thank you. Janelle, the same question.
One of the other great loves of my life, in addition to music, of course, is the law. And I thought some of the sessions that we had on Get to Know the Law were excellent. They were all very interesting, and we're fortunate to have outstanding members of the local bar associations to help us in explaining those parts of the law. Probably one of the most challenging series was the series on the First Amendment rights. That was very, very interesting. I think very well put together, and excellent people talking about the First Amendment rights. And then also the series on empowering women was very interesting. Rianne Eisler was here, the Blade and the Chalice and the Blade, the author of The Chalice and the Blade. She was excellent, but there were other speakers in that group. Christina Crawford, who is a personality in her own right, and the author of a book, Mommy Dearest, and it was very interesting to meet and get to know her.
That series was very global, wasn't it? And
Yes.
understanding about issues of women worldwide. And for the viewers who don't know, there were 900 delegates that came to that conference here. It was held at North Idaho College and in Coeur d'Alene, and we did do a series of programs.
There were a number of speakers, and just some of those speakers were guests on this program, but they were excellent, all of them.
Dr. Bennett, you've had this opportunity. This panel is special. You know, they're very experienced and very qualified. Would you like to react to what they said about guests and subjects? And
Yes, I would. Before I do, however, I'd like to say a comment about you. Is that all right?
we can pass that if you wish.
No way are we going to do that. You know, you've been around a long time. I've always said you started when they started the first building, but I guess that's not really true. But I can tell you this, that some of the things that you have initiated at this college are certainly appreciated. And we've talked a lot about that in terms of taking students beyond the classroom and giving them an experience that maybe will last longer than an individual lesson that's taught in the classroom. And I think this kind of program and the people that you brought to the campus and interviewed does give a dimension to this college that few have. And I really want to tell you I appreciate that effort and that extra work. And the audience needs to know that you have a full-time teaching load in addition to all of this. And so I think you deserve a little thanks for that effort.
You've always been supportive, and we appreciate that.
I do want to ask them some questions. Again, before I do, I want to make an observation. You've all talked about the guests and you talked about the subjects, but I've had an opportunity to look back those 25 years at different tapes. And I think the audience would love sometime if you do a clip, because I've had the opportunity to see those. These people do change. Tony had a different color hair and a little more. I think yours was a different color. Steve had hair. I had some hair even when I started. And I think just having a chance to see how we've changed is a lesson in itself, in addition to the subjects and the people that you brought. But I would like to ask you a question, as you thought back about the guests and so forth. It's a little nervous to get in front of this camera and to wait and know whether I'm going to have the right question or whatever. What's been the most intimidating guest, or what's been the most intimidating kind of experience you've had in terms of preparing for an interview?
That's a great question.
I'll say that to begin with, when I first appeared on the show, there was another panelist, Mary Lou Reed.
I remember seeing her too in
Yes.
different days.
And I asked Mary Lou for some advice, and this is the advice she gave me: concentrate. And I think that's the biggest thing to helping you not feel intimidated. The second thing is that I always ask myself, as I'm driving over here one last time, what is it that I would like to know from this person? What do I think the general public, all of you people who are out there watching, would want to ask this person if you were sitting right there? And that's the case, like, say, with the governor, for example. But in terms of intimidating, it has not been the people who were in office or who were important, I think, who are intimidating, because they have that great gift of making you feel very comfortable. But the time that I can remember, we had a guest, and he had a number of artifacts that he laid out on the table, and I didn't recognize one of them, and I asked him what it was, and he said, "It's a tomahawk," and he picked it up. And I thought, "Oh my," and I went home feeling like I'd been rather foolish. And so that was intimidating.
All right. Steve?
Bob, to be honest, I can't really remember being intimidated by a guest. And maybe it's my background as a reporter. I'm used to asking people questions, and I truly become interested. I am genuinely interested in what they have to say. The best part of the show for me has been the opportunity to meet and actually visit with, in a personal way, so many interesting and knowledgeable people.
Maybe anxiety would have been a better word.
I mentioned the fact that music isn't my strong suit, and we've done a number of shows with musicians. I don't have a great deal of background about that, but sometimes I think Janelle made an excellent point. Many people in the audience don't either, so I guess I ask the questions that maybe they would ask in our position. I can think back to a guest or two, and there have been very few, but who may have been rather difficult to communicate with for some reason or another. We've had some where language was a barrier. And that presents a real set of problems. But intimidated, I don't think I've felt intimidated by it.
Bob has really triggered my thinking in some other areas, and that is, I'll first say that we had a group from Eastern Europe on our program. They were here to perform, and they came on the program, and and none of the guests spoke English, and we had an interpreter. And that slowed down the program because they had to have the translation. But I would like to ask both panel members again, too, after you've done it a long time, and I do want to pause to say that Mary Lou Reed is the other person that had long tenure. She was here about 12 years before she became a state senator. She was here in the 70s and early 80s. And so what I've been fortunate to do is have panel members that have stayed for years and years. And I think that kind of cement is very essential to a program like this, where it is a question-answer program. But what I'd like to hear from both of you, and I haven't given you these questions in advance. That's wonderful. You get this very first response approach. I've always had an idea of what I thought the program was about as the program producer, but it's very important to hear from the panel. We've discussed this. What have both of you seen as the reason for this program or the bottom line? Janelle?
I think the bottom line is education. The name of the show is the NIC Public Forum, and that's exactly what it is. It's a place where people can come and share their ideas. And then, so in other words, we're educating by having a guest who comes and shares their ideas. We've had a variety of subjects, and we've had a variety of opinions. I've seen my position not so much as one where I expressed my own opinion, but as where I drew out the what the person who was here had to say, so that that information was shared with a large audience. And we do go out not only to stations in Idaho and Washington, but to other surrounding states, so we reach a large number of people, and it's a sharing with all of those people, helping them to get acquainted with diversity.
Steve Shink.
Tony, that's such a good answer from Janelle. I don't know what I can add to it. I think she's just absolutely on target. You see guests that from time to time are a little bit nervous as they come on this show, and I think they expect to be interrogated, maybe challenged on their points, and that's never been our role. It is truly a conversation. And very casual and friendly in style, and I don't think it's ever been our intent to try to debate with our guests or tell them our point of view. We're a forum for them to express their point of view and hopefully provide something to the audience that's worthwhile and interesting.
That reminds me of something I want to say about Bill Wasmuth. Bill Wasmuth is the executive director of the Northwest Coalition Against Malicious Harassment in Seattle, Washington, a 6-state human rights group. He used to be a priest here in Coeur d'Alene at St. Pius Catholic Church, and he wrote me a letter for the 1000th TV show, and that was really wonderful about this show. He said, the reason I am in that position I am today working in human rights is because of the North Idaho College Public Forum. He appeared on this with some other local leaders, religious leaders, when we were having a problem in our community about racism, and that he said that sparked him to go into the work he has, and so that alone would make the program, I would think, worthwhile. And I would quote very quickly what he said in his letter to me in one sentence. He said, the NIC TV series has been the springboard for many individuals and activities. It has also been a most important factor in providing public information on a wide range of subjects, information that would not otherwise be available to the population of the region. And what you said is being supported by his letter. One other quick question, and then the President's going to present something here in a moment to us, but I do have time for one more question from both panel members. It's very personal about you. I look at life oftentimes as a human being is a puzzle, and you start out as a baby, and you've seen these puzzles in the store where there's only 5 or 6 big pieces for a child to put together. As they grow up, then they get larger puzzles, not towards 1,000 or 2,000 pieces. It takes a long time to put together. After you've done this program for years and years, you've had a lot of pieces added to your puzzle. Your big pieces have become small pieces. You're more complicated, in my opinion. And so would you both tell us what it's done for you, how you've changed as a human being with, I consider the 3 of us being very fortunate to have this opportunity to meet all these people from around the world, and how's it changed you?
I think it's been a wonderful experience to meet all kinds of new people, and I do thank you very much, Tony, and to North Idaho College, all of the people, all of the students who've helped us. It's been a wonderful opportunity to meet all of these people. And then it's been a wonderful opportunity to learn about things. I think it encouraged me to go to law school, that kind of thing. It helped me, it's helped me since in dealing with my children, in learning how to deal with problems. And then I think it's been an opportunity to share with others, and it's very rewarding, and I thank you.
But a broadening experience, certainly. Maybe I've learned more today than all the other hundreds of shows. It's always good to get the shoe on the other foot once in a while and to see what other folks have to deal with.
Well, Dr. Bennett, we have something you're presenting here to the public forum, and I'll get this out
really
here.
what I want these people to know who watch you all the time is that you're not just this scholarly gentleman who ask important questions to important people. In fact, your real delight is to eat cake. And I know that you have the largest sweet tooth of anyone on the campus, so you'll dream up any kind of an event possible to have a cake. Today, I think it's an appropriate dream that you have, and that we have 25 years to celebrate with you, and to have some kind of sweet thing in the form of a cake for us to eat, I guess, in front of the audience. The only thing, who's going to cut this cake?
Well, we'll ask the panel. That should be their special honor.
They're going to
At the end of the
cut it.
program, we have some people off stage. Our crew, in particular, are very special, and they're going to eat a cake. And by the way, this particular cake has got a very special filling in it that we'll leave that for surprise. You're not very far behind in liking sweet desserts like cakes and pies
you and I
either.
both like to eat. There's no
So
doubt
I'm
about
sure
it.
you'll look forward to the end of the program. But thank you very much, and we
It's my
appreciate
pleasure.
your support. We have about 2 minutes left, and I'm going to use those 2 minutes to have Steve and Janelle, if they wish, to say whatever they want to say that we have not asked.
Well, I do want to take a couple of minutes if I can, and I'll leave Janelle plenty of time, but I'm glad Dr. Bennett mentioned you, Tony. Not enough, even with his very kind remarks, has been said. It's a remarkable achievement to have done over 1,200 shows for 25 years, never miss one. And that's just the 30 minutes you spend here. The energy that's involved in arranging these, looking ahead, scheduling, picking guests, it's remarkable, and I want to congratulate you.
Well, it's just a pleasure to work with you. I just enjoy it. I can't say how much I enjoy both of you and appreciate you don't have to do this. You know, it's not part of your job description. We thank you for it.
Ditto to what Steve has said, but also to thank all the people who watch us week after week, and we hope they'll continue.
And I want to say something else about Janelle that a lot of people don't know. She takes time off from work to come and do this program. And the way she does that, she takes her lunch hour. If she comes here at 2 o'clock, she works through lunch so she can do this. And that's kind of commitment, Dr. Bennett, that we have from this panel. And we, with Lindy Turner and his staff and the Board of Trustees, the faculty, too, is very supportive, and the staff. A lot of people, it's team effort. And so we thank you. We've enjoyed today. It's been a special day for me. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've got some insights about our panel and people that you didn't know. And we hope that you'll join us again next week when we will attempt to start the 26th year of the North Idaho College Public Forum. Until then, please have a good week. I am Tony Stewart.
The North Idaho College Public Forum was videotaped live from the studios of Instructional Technology on the campus of North Idaho College for viewing at this more appropriate time. We invite you to join us again next week for another all-new edition of the North Idaho College Public Forum on this public television station.